Hi everyone and welcome to my new video where we are setting up February in my bullet journal. I had a lot of fun setting up this theme and I really enjoyed the colorful look, and I hope this theme brings you joy as well. Now without further ado, let's start setting up my cover page. I decided to do something really different compared to my usual style and went for a parrot theme, which was inspired by Leigh Ellexson, and I will link their YouTube channel in the description in case you want to check that out. I just really like their style and the color scheme, which is definitely something I usually wouldn't go for, but I wanted to challenge myself and see what would happen if I would try that out as well. I wanted to go for more of a sketchy look with my line art, so the colored pencils that I will use later would be the star of the show. Because of that, I used a 01 fineliner for the outlines instead of using a thicker fineliner like I usually do. And by the way, all the products I used in this video are linked in the description as always, so check that out if you are curious to see which pens I used, for example. When I was deciding my theme, I asked some theme ideas from you over on my Instagram and got a lot of great suggestions. One of you wanted to see something similar to my swan theme from a couple of years ago, and as I really love the theme too, I decided to go for a similar design. As many of you also wanted to see something that would suit the upcoming Valentine's Day, I thought this parrot design would work really well too. Like I said earlier, I went for quite a bright color scheme, but if you prefer more muted colors, you could easily use those for the coloring, and I think it would work really well too. As always, I started my coloring process with very light layers because it's easier to mix different colors that way, and it just looks better in my opinion. I wanted the main color of these parrots to be pink, as that's my all-time favorite color. But I used some shades of yellow for a bit more interesting look. For the wings, I decided to go for a blue color because it matched well with the cool undertone of the pink, and I think blue is the color of the year, if I remember right. Anyway, this process was basically just going over with the previous layers so they would look darker, and I used darker colors on the outlines so the black fineliner would kind of blend in with the colors. I also wanted the parrots to have some texture on the coloring so they would look more lively, I guess, and because of that I added some random spots on the feathers instead of coloring them very evenly. I honestly thought that I would have been more scared of this color palette, but it was actually really fun to color these parrots. Maybe seeing the color scheme working really well with the illustration that Leigh Ellexson had made was helpful because I knew the colors would work well together. I'm very excited to hear what you think of these colors and this theme in general. It's definitely very different compared to my January theme, for example, but I feel like I'm ready to explore new things with my style and be a bit more bold with the colors as well. We will see how it goes. Anyway, here you can hopefully see the textures I spoke about earlier. I added some small lines in the wings with a darker blue and also some darker spots so the wings wouldn't look flat. This illustration can probably seem challenging, especially if you are a beginner with drawing, but I think birds are actually pretty easy to draw, and this more loose style works really well because the lines don't have to be perfect, and I actually drew them more quickly than I usually do, so they would have more effortless look, I guess. Colored pencils are also a lot more forgiving than markers because you can erase them if you happen to make a mistake, and it's less scary to build up the color slowly, at least in my opinion. If you didn't know, animal themes are my favorites to make because I love drawing animals and I feel like they are quite easy to draw compared to humans, for example. I would love to learn how to draw them as well though, so maybe I will try to do one theme with humans this year, but we will see. If there are any animals you would like to see me draw, let me know in the comments, and other theme ideas are of course welcome as well. For the branch that the parrots are sitting on, I used a couple different shades of brown and also some orange, so the shade of brown would work well with the other colors. I drew the branch just under the parrots because I feel like it would have looked a bit weird if I had continued it to the side of the page. Anyway, I accidentally wrote the title a bit off center, so I added a little heart next to it and I think it worked out quite well. I felt like something was still missing though, so I decided to add these yellow leaf doodles behind the birds, and I chose to use yellow because it's lighter than pink and blue, and it also gave a nice contrast to this whole illustration. I again used a couple of different shades of yellow for this, as you can see, and I also decided to add some details on the leaves with a darker shade. This leaf pattern kind of reminds me of hearts, so I thought it would go well with the upcoming Valentine's Day without being too obvious. Valentine's Day is actually called a friendship day in Finnish, and some people like to give cards or little gifts to their friends during it. I might be wrong with this, but if I've understood correctly, it's more common to give gifts to your romantic partners in the US, so I guess Valentine's Day might not be as enjoyable to celebrate if you are a single. I think it's important to remember that there are lots of different types of love, and it's important to show that to your loved ones, whether they are your family members or friends or your partner. Anyway, my cover page is now finished, and on the left side I decided to make a self-care checklist, as I thought February is a good month to remember to take care of yourself as well. I also couldn't find a nice quote, so that's another reason why I went for this instead. I just wrote a bunch of things I enjoy doing, like painting my nails and going to sauna. And yes, that's actually how you pronounce it in Finnish, not sauna. Having a bathtub is quite rare here in Finland, so that's why you don't see that in my list. Going to sauna is very relaxing though, and it's so nice to enjoy this steam that comes when you throw the water on the sauna stove, or kiuas like we call that here in Finland. I feel like evenings are the best time to go to sauna because the warm temperature can get you a bit tired, and I feel like I always sleep better after that. I would love to hear what kind of things you would write on your self-care checklist, so let me know in the comments. Self-care is definitely a lot more than putting on a face mask or painting your nails, even though those other things I wrote in here. One of the most important things in my opinion is to have some kind of boundaries and not to do things just to please other people, for example. Those are probably also a lot more difficult things to do and not as aesthetic, so that's probably why self-care means more taking care of your physical body in the social media world. Anyway, for the decorations I just drew a bunch of leaf doodles around the grid paper that I used for the list, and even though this was a simple way to decorate the page, it definitely took more time than I anticipated because I was using colored pencils. Now that my cover spread is finally done, we can move on to my monthly spread. I started an internship last month, so I've been needing a bigger calendar to fit all the different events in there. I think I made boxes that are 5 dots tall and wide, so I should be able to write a couple more things than on my previous calendar. Because I wasn't sure if I had the correct shade of pink and blue on my marker collection, I decided to use the colored pencils for drawing the calendar as well. I also messed up one box, but luckily that was easy to fix with an eraser and a white gel pen. I also tried to go for kind of like a gradient on the top of the calendar by using a darker color on the sides and a lighter pink in the middle, and I think it worked out quite well. For the decorations I drew a little parrot sitting on the top of the calendar, and I think this turned out really well. I always try to draw the animals on my setups a little bit differently on each page. just to challenge my drawing skills a bit. Anyway, my internship has been really fun so far, and because of that I've been quite busy, so that's why this video is coming a bit late. I don't know if I've talked about this, but I make social media content at my internship, so I often spend the whole day filming and editing, and it's quite tiring to start editing my own videos at home after a long day. I hope I will get the inspiration for my March theme earlier, so I won't be as late with my schedule. That can be difficult with creative work though, but I feel like I have more motivation to draw now that I have some other things going on as well. Probably because it's easier to find inspiration in the world around you, and before the internship I was spending more time at home, which doesn't have that many new exciting things to gain inspiration about. I also know that some of you are looking for my 2023 bullet journal flip through, and I hope I will have some time to film it after my internship, so it might be coming very late, but I might also skip it if I don't have the time. Besides the parrot, I again drew some leaf doodles as well to make the spread a bit more decorative. Because my calendar was bigger this time, I didn't have enough space for making a flip out like I've done in the last couple of months, but I think I will have enough writing space without it as well. You could definitely leave the calendar spread like it is now, but because I'm a little bit extra, I wanted to add more leaf doodles on the right side, and this time I used all the three colors to have a little bit more variation. I think using just the pink and blue would have worked really well too, and it gives a bit more calm look, I guess. My plan was still to use this as a writing space for weekly planning, as I could easily write on top of the doodles, and I actually ended up adding some tracing paper on top of them later to make them a bit more muted. That was also a good way to make sure that I wouldn't feel bad writing on top of them. Like always, you could easily simplify this theme if you still want to use it as inspiration, as you could draw just these leaf doodles instead of the parrots. I think these leaf doodles might look really cool with watercolors as well, and you could use the colored pencils on top for the details too. It's actually really funny how I always end up making a drawing heavy theme when I don't have that much time on my hands. Like, I could have made a simple theme with collages and used stickers instead of drawing, and then I might have got this video ready on time, but I just wasn't feeling it. I guess you always want what you can't get, and when it comes to me, I want to draw when I feel like drawing, as forcing it is not that fun. Anyway, now we are making my tracker spread, and as always I decided to use the grid paper for every other calendar because I really like that look, and I also didn't want to draw the calendar grids by hand. For the other boxes I just drew the outlines with a light brown color, and I'm tracking the same habits as I've done in the last couple of months, but I decided to try adding reading back in one of my trackers this time, just to see if I would be able to pick it up again. Reading has always been the one habit that I would like to do, but the tracker ends up looking sad and empty at the end of the month. So now I've actually borrowed a book from the library, so hopefully I will actually read it this time. To be honest, I didn't really use my mood tracker in January, but I still decided to add that in this spread because I didn't know what I could have done to replace it. I think I will have to figure out something else for next month though, because I have a feeling that I might forget to fill it in this month as well, but we will see. If you have any ideas what I could add on the bottom instead of a mood tracker, definitely let me know. I've made a step and sleep tracker instead a couple years ago, so I might give that another try, as seeing how much I sleep, for example, might be helpful. Speaking about sleep, my sleeping schedule has been quite good lately, as I've been waking up and going to bed earlier, which definitely isn't always easy for a night owl like me, especially because I often get all my creative ideas in the evenings. Let me know whether you are an early bird or a night owl, as it would be interesting to know. Anyway, for the decorations, I once again went for these colorful leaves because I didn't have enough space for drawing the birds, and I also wanted to do something more simple because I knew I would be drawing parrots on my weekly spreads. I also decided to add some leaves on the bottom as well. Oh, and I added a gold line under the title because I realized that I hadn't used any gold in this theme and was missing it a little bit. For my weekly spreads, I decided to go for a dot door layout like always, and I had already cut the dot doors before filming to save some time. I cut the pages from the 8th dot, but if you are using a bigger notebook like A5, you could leave more space on the sides. I'm using the original size notebook from Notebook Therapy, which is slightly smaller than A5, and I've posted a comparison in the beginning of my 2023 Part 2 bullet journal setup, so I will link it in the description if you want to check that out. I decided to try out this pink Tombow dual brush pen that I had because I thought it would work well with the colors that I used on my drawings, and luckily it matched quite well, so I guess I could have used it on my monthly spread as well. For the layout, I used this vertical layout with boxes that are 8 dots wide and 15 dots tall, if I remember right, and I love that this layout has a lot of writing space, especially if you have to write a to-do list. I set up just the first weekly spread in this video, but I think I will use the same layout for all the other weeklies as well. For the decorations, I drew one parrot on each empty side of the page, and I really like how they turned out. Usually I leave some space for notes on at least one side, but this time I skipped that so I could draw the parrots a little bit bigger. Usually the note section ends up looking quite empty, so I think I will do just fine without it as well. By the way, if you are curious about what I usually write in my weekly spreads, I often write the 3 most important tasks I have to get done during the day, and I will use the rest of the writing space for journaling about my day. This way I will better remember everything that happened, and it's nice to read that afterwards. I've posted a video where I show you how I use my bullet journal during the day, so definitely go check that out if you would like to know more about that and haven't seen it yet. I will link it in the description. Bullet journaling doesn't take that much time when I have done my monthly setup, as I just use one black pen for filling in everything. I would love to hear if you have any plans for this month. February is still a winter month here in Finland, but luckily we are getting more sunlight each day, which makes it more tolerable. In January we had very cold days as the temperature was minus 30 degrees Celsius for about a week, and that was definitely too cold for me. It's easy to manage the cold when you have all your winter clothes on, but my face always freezes because it's difficult to cover. I wear glasses every day, so I can't cover my nose outside because my glasses will get blurry or maybe foggy, I don't know. Anyway, my plans for this month is to start knitting my first ever cardigan, which I'm very excited about. I still haven't decided which pattern I'm going to use, but I have already bought the yarn for it, and if you know any great cardigan patterns, definitely let me know in the comments. Hopefully making a cardigan doesn't take forever so I can wear it this winter, especially on the cold days. Besides the parrots, I also added these blue leaves around them, and this time I didn't use the other colors because I wanted this spread to be a bit more calm with the colors. I'm really happy with how this whole spread turned out, and I definitely needed all this color to cheer me up, as now looking at my journal makes me really happy. Now it's time for the final flip through, and I'm really excited to hear what you think of this theme. I really love how it turned out, and drawing these parrots was so much fun. I've really enjoyed using this spread so far, although my mood tracker is still empty. Anyway, remember to leave a like on this video and also a parrot emoji in the comments if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye bye!